Hello, it's a different person introducing today. Welcome to the BSL Newsround. Last time we were talking about the worth of an interpreter, deaf people's views and their opinions. And now we're going to look at the other side, the interpreter's views. So they're going to give us an overview of the worth of an interpreter, or not, so to speak. Here you go.
The situation for myself at the moment is that Access to Work are still enforcing a much lower rate of pay for me, and at the moment I'm earning only £18 an hour. That's a massive drop in my earnings. I'm actually earning less than a communication support worker, and I'm a qualified interpreter. Life is so hard and it's really unfair.
It can take between 6 to 10 years to become a qualified registered RSLI. Do you feel that is a long time? No, it's an appropriate time to become qualified. You need to gain a lot of different experiences within different domains. You have to absorb all BSL linguistical elements to become fluent in sign language. For example, would you trust a person without any qualifications, no training? Would you trust them to interpret for you in a police situation? There could be a communication breakdown. For another example, if you went to a doctor's appointment for surgery, quite a serious appointment, would you trust someone to translate that for you? Another example, if you was in a meeting situation with your manager, for example, it could be an important meeting, you could get fired. There's loads of examples that you need to think about. So that's why it takes 6 to 10 years for an interpreter to become qualified and a registered RSLI.
As an interpreter, we must always ensure we prepare prior to attending a job, making sure we know exactly what's going to happen. The last thing we want to do is arrive at a meeting or arrive at a job and have to request clarification. We need communication to be smooth and clear so all participants can communicate equally.
Professional interpreters will often support one another through peer supervision, support, mentoring, and dedicate a lot of time to improving their skills without being paid. Often, they have to pay others for these services.
At the moment, within my profession, it's really difficult out there. Quite often on Facebook, I see plenty of my peers making posts. They're really fed up. They can't afford to live and carry on interpreting, which means there's a risk of lots of skilled and talented interpreters leaving the profession. It's really sad. I'm really anxious about the future of my own profession. Come on!
The big question for interpreters at the moment is about how much they're actually worth. That's the question. The interpreting community is going through a lot of discussion at the moment to try and resolve and face up to some of the challenges that are there for them at the current time. As you know, interpreters have been through many years of training, and they've passed many qualifications to reach the point where they finally become fully qualified. The profession now feels greatly under threat and under a lot of pressure because quite a lot of interpreting work now the government is considering introducing contracts to run this, which will be tendered to different organisations and will cover most public service work. So the interpreting profession at the moment, we feel, should be united because they need to undertake research to show factual information to the government which explains what interpreters are actually worth. Now, what's really interesting is that recently the government has announced the setting up of an inquiry called a select committee, which is where different MPs, different industry professionals and representatives come together as part of a panel to discuss the issues and make a recommendation direct to the government, so a select committee report. Now, yesterday, this was interesting, there was an announcement which talks about the national framework, and the details of that were being announced. And included in that were the standards, the minimum expectations that we feel should be present when you try to book an interpreter. Now, the interpreting community has a lot of concerns about that because a lot of the language that was used in the framework was very out of fashion and not relevant. For example, talking about people with level 1, level 2 and level 3, which we don't feel is acceptable at all. The interpreting profession for years has been proactive and campaigned to try and raise standards up. And now this appears with level 1, level 2 and level 3.
If the government do not understand the deaf community or the interpreting profession, they cannot be allowed to dictate what they think is best. If they do, then professional, qualified interpreters will disappear very quickly.
Interestingly, yesterday, the reports and the results of the inquiry were announced. And level 1, level 2 and level 3 have been removed from that now and replaced with a minimum requirement of NRCPD registration, which automatically means you must at least be a TSLI to register. Level 1, level 2 and 3 have gone now. The interpreting community is really happy and relieved about that. So we'll be interested to see what happens from now on. But I think predominantly we feel more positive now.
Wow. Did you watch the interpreters' views and opinions? Very emotional and sad. Some serious points too. Just to let you know, there's other interpreters out there who are feeling the same. Wow. I remember in my time back in 1999 when I went to university. There was interpreters there with amazing skills in production. There was extremely talented and knowledgeable and capable interpreters. They helped me achieve my job and they're extremely valuable and so worthwhile. I really appreciated them. But now the government seem to be changing things and lowering standards. So what's going to happen? Interpreters are going to leave the profession. What about us deaf people? We're going to suffer, aren't we? What about our jobs? Are they safe? I'm really worried about that. But thank you for watching.